everybody, and welcome back. Well, this is the first time we've been together since the holidays, so we hope you had a happy new year. Thank you for joining us. We are very excited tonight. We have some very special guests. Of course, first of all, I'm 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗀. This is 𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗃, and we are the co-artistic directors of Fourth Wall Theater, and welcome to Beyond the Fourth Wall. Who do we have tonight?
Oh, we have, like most of the creative team of Random Acts, which is the show that we're going to be offering online coming up. We have the writer and actor, Renata Hinrichs, and we have the director, Jessi D. Hill.
Yay. Thank you, ladies. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you. For those of you who don't know, just real quick to let you know, Renata has been generous enough to share with us this beautiful story and one-woman show that we are going to be able to air for all of you by streaming. It's a filmed show. I don't want to give too much information about it, but it's a filmed version of her one-woman show that we're going to run for 3 weeks, beginning during the week of Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday holiday. We're going to start it that week, and there is some reason for that, but it just is a beautiful time to start it because the show has some civil rights activism importance and some heritage there for her. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm always worried about spoilers. So anyway, here we go. So let's talk a little bit to Renata and Jessi about their history and how they came together and how this piece came into fruition. And let's hear from these two ladies. Renata, talk to us a little bit.
Renata, why did this, what the heck happened to make you start this?
Wow. So the first seeds of the show really started kind of, the memory started popping up when right after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I was in Chelsea, right near the St. Vincent's Hospital, where the ambulances were coming from the site of the World Trade Center, and everything was in lockdown and I was alone. And there was something about that time of confusion and the sirens and just the terror and the unknown that, I don't know, after a few weeks, sort of felt familiar to me in some odd way. And I started remembering this, the moment and it's in the play, where I first encounter this amazing act of kindness. And that was the first sort of spark. And then it kept kind of coming back into my consciousness, over the years. And then cut to, I was a part of the Barrow Group, and I am still a part of the Barrow Group Theater Company. And Lee Brock decided to begin a women's development group. Mm-hmm. She called it the 𝗵𝗵𝗀, so work for, about, and by women. And in the beginning stages, there was an open mic, and we were encouraged to, just tell stories, have fun with what you're thinking about working on. And I never thought of myself as a writer, but this story kept kind of popping in, and I just thought, well, I'll just tell this story. And so I kind of told it extemporaneously. I hadn't written it down, and it was like took me about 5 minutes or so. And afterward, Lee was like, you really need to write something about this. We're doing a festival. This was like in December. And she was like, we're doing this solo festival in March. I think you really need to write something. And I was like, no. I was terrified, first of all, but I was like, I'm not a writer. I can't do it, But after that conversation, the thought of it, and actually that's when the story really started coming through my body. It was like, I kind of describe it as like, it kept knocking at my heart. It's like, it wouldn't let me go. And so I was like, okay, I surrender. I will start writing it. But I had to, so that's how it started. Yeah.
I love that you say that the story was telling itself through your body, because when people watch it, they will see that it is anything but someone just sitting or standing on stage blabbing away. There's a lot of movement, and your body is very expressive. And so why don't we, there's a lot of ways to go, but I want to know how Jessi got involved in the project.
How did I get involved in the project, Renata?
Do we remember? Yeah, that's part of my
no,
life.
that's not fair. I'm trying to
No, because
you
actually, I think that Renata and I had several connections, and ultimately it came down to one of them, but I don't actually remember the whole.
Yeah. So I got your name through Susan Ferreira, who
Yes.
you knew from Chicago.
Who is one of my oldest and dearest friends from Chicago.
Yeah.
And I used to live in Chicago, which is one of my connections to the piece.
city.
Yeah.
I just I thought the answer was going to be, oh well, we've known each other for 30 years. That's not this story at all.
No.
It feels that way, but no.
No.
But yeah, so her name came up a few times. And when I really needed a director, yeah, I was kind of interviewing a few people, and we had a conversation, and it just felt right. You know, I loved what she said about how she worked. Kind of, you know, it was about helping me tell this story the way I wanted to tell it, and she would be supportive of that and give me really good feedback, which she did.
Yeah. Jessi, did you see the piece? Did you see Renata perform the piece before you directed the project, or you saw it you read it on paper? Or
No. Well, so Renata had an earlier incarnation of the piece that she had performed, and I remember us getting together with that script that she ended up with, and we read it out loud, and I gave her some feedback, and I made some suggestions for things that could happen to it structurally, and she was really excited about it, and we just connected on it, and I think almost immediately started working on it together. So it was a re-envisioning of something that she had already done. In my memory, taking the best of what she had done and imagining it for who she was in the present moment.
Sure.
And Renata's an incredible mover. She's an incredible dancer. It's one of her gifts. I've worked on so many solo shows, y'all, so many solo shows. And I've learned that they should showcase the performer's gifts first and foremost. So when I learned and could see from working with Renata how gifted of a mover that she was, I would say that that was one of the biggest evolutions of the work that we did together. And one of the biggest, I think, focuses of what we made together was showcasing her as a dancer, as a gifted mover. Renata, I don't know if you would say that too, but that's what I think that we ultimately focused on. Yeah. Initially.
Yeah, I mean, I'd had, yeah, at that point when we met, because I wanted to reimagine the piece, there was, and people who will see the play, yeah, there's a part that takes place in the 60s and a part that takes place in the 70s, and how to kind of meld those pieces together. But it was really in the staging, and it was wonderful working with Jessi, because in order to go between characters, because I play all the different characters in the play, to really approach that from a physical standpoint, and because yes, I do kind of approach everything from a physical aspect, from the inside out. Yeah. And so yeah, so it was just a nice working relationship. So yeah.
Obvious. Well, when you see the show, you'll know that it's obviously at least it sure does seem like a nice working relationship. It's a really good, really good. When did you decide to film it? Or was that always part of the deal? And did you direct that part of it too, Jessi?
No, I think we just got a really good film of a performance, right?
Yeah, we did. We you know, I wanted to have a document of it, and I happen to know this wonderful, you know, Eli, who filmed it, is just an amazing filmmaker, and he was generous to say, oh, here, I've got these cameras, and he loved the story. He was sort of really a fan of the work, and he was just willing to help out, which was a blessing, really was.
So it was basically an archival film
Yeah.
then, and now it's become something different.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Fantastic.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful that you were fortunate enough to have put something together that is that high of quality. I mean, so often, I know for us, we've made archival films that we look at and we go, oh, ooh, no,
no,
oh no,
what
oh no.
happened?
This was a good play. I don't understand.
Well, yeah, but we've only used one camera, and so you were
Yeah,
smart
yeah.
enough to use at least 3, right?
Yes.
Insisted. I think we actually had 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that because I
Yes.
want our audiences to know that
It's a really great film.
yeah, it feels like a film. There are,
Yeah.
there are close-ups, there are full stage shots, and there's a couple things in between,
Angles, and
different
there's
angles.
all,
It's
it's really beautiful.
really high quality.
Yeah, and really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And, and one of the things that I found so engaging about is it feels so personal. And most filmed theater for us does not feel personal. And we really avoid it.
Yeah.
We're very particular, we feel very strongly about our aesthetic and what we want to show our audience. So it's the highest compliment for the quality of your performance and the work of the film for us to want to share it. It's really wonderful. And I hope you share it more and more and more. It's really great.
I think we should prove it right
Yeah.
now. I think
Yes.
we
This
should
is perfect.
show, there's a trailer.
Yes.
And we have it. It's like 2 minutes long. And so we're all going to shut up for a second. And as soon as here it is.
Great.
Enjoy.
And I fall in love with a city. And it is Chicago. She's 5 years old. She has to be on her own someday. We rush to the front door. Mom drops the keys. Her hand is shaking. She picks up the keys. She opens the door. We rush inside. She closes the door. Mom falls on her knees and hugs me. Hey, little girl, you all right? Come on now, you're all right. Little girl, you didn't do anything wrong. I don't like the hood. Do I have to wear the hood? I don't want to wear the hood. You have to wear the hood. If you don't wear the hood, you could catch a cold. She ties it really tight under my chin. I look like a big pea pod with a face. I will tell you this story of a boy who my dad believed was my guardian angel, and his random act of kindness and how it helped shape my life.
Yay.
That was great. So terrific.
How is that for you watching yourself, Renata?
It's so interesting because I kind of I kind of like go, I feel it, I kind of go through it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, yeah, I kind of go right back into it a little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
That's good.
that's nice.
I have whenever I watch myself, I'm horrified.
Yeah. I don't really like to watch myself that much either.
I mean, it's like, yeah. Well, I hear I hear the words, and I can feel myself in the space, and I kind of think of it from that point of view.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about the design and who did it and how you just talk a little or a lot about it. I really like it, and I want to know what you guys think about it or have to say about it, or the people who did it, or how it happened.
Yeah.
How you decided to have that. It's pretty simple, but
Yeah. You
effective.
want to start, Jessi? You want to kind of speak to that a little bit?
Oh, well, we had this wonderful opportunity to do the show in a full run at the Barra Group after developing it a number of times. And my recollection, I don't know, of the timeline, Renata, is that the set designer at the Barra Group had made kind of the bare bones of that set, and the timing had just worked out to get involved in a conversation with them about taking our show into account in a kind of co-design with a show that was going on at the Barra Group.
Yeah.
So it was just a wonderful collaboration with somebody who took on the challenge of putting both shows together that fit rather nicely together. And I think it ended up sparking ultimately how the design ended up flourishing over the course of the process.
Yeah.
So another show utilized the same set?
So there was a show before us, and
Yeah.
she was the designer on it, and we really loved her work. And so we came upon, we were like, well, we could repurpose, we might be able to save money for both people, to repurpose certain sets and certain things for both, so one was, so
they were like overlapping in schedule,
yeah,
like right.
So we were able
back,
to gel them together a little bit, but 𝗥𝗲𝗀𝗁𝗵𝗀 is this wonderful Japanese artist, and also a former dancer, I think. And so there was this real simpatico with our thoughts about this piece, and we really wanted to keep it simple. I think from the very beginning, it's like our whole goal was like, we could do this anywhere, but we had this chance to, play with lights and see what the set would, like a backdrop would be, and what the lights would need to focus on when we did that. And so she came up with this panel that could be the church stained windows, it could be outside, inside. I mean, just the use of light could be anything. And a lot of it takes place in my mind, or, the child's imagination. So that was a wonderful way of invoking that. And yeah, it was just so fun. And then she had this design to paint the floor so that there was a line or a demarcation on the stage. And I don't think I'd ever had that much room on a stage before. I mean, it was so funny because I'd been used to having a really small space. And at one point, Jessi's like, no, you can actually go there and over there and actually all the way up and all the way down. I was like, oh, it was a really,
Yeah, when Renata and I initially started working together, I think we agreed that we were making something that really could be done anywhere.
Yeah.
That she could roll up on a street corner and just open up a box and there it is.
Sure.
And I think ultimately that's at the heart of it. She really can, and she has been doing it that way, and it works.
Tell us about that.
But so in this particular incarnation, it was such a gift to be able to really think about it anew after we had been focusing on it as being so transformational, to really think about, oh, we actually do get to build a world that has a foundation. What does that look like?
Yeah.
But you have done at least one other production that I know of outdoors, right?
Yes. So yeah, I had a chance to, in the middle of a pandemic, the guy who, I don't know, I was approached by someone who really loved the show and wanted to, it's like, this should be, we can do it outside. He came up with a way to do sound. We be distant, but anyway, we found a few locations in Central Park, and then there was a back yard or a back garden behind a theater in Chelsea. And it was just a joy to do it. And it was so strange because it was like, literally, I had a bench, I had a portable bench, and there we go. There I am. Outside. Yeah.
The
And
only essential piece of scenery in the show is a bench. So
Yeah.
have to have the bench. Yeah. So it was a joy. And then I had one of the women, someone who helped with the show came on board, and she was able to, we had a Bluetooth speaker, and we had a few sound effects. So like there were a few songs that are really essential to the show, and she was able to play those, and yeah, we could do it in an instant. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, that's really great about, one person shows are so easy to move around, so easy to show to so many people. And I know I also wrote a one woman show with the Barrow Group many, many years ago. And I know that it was such a wonderful environment, and Seth and Lee are so wonderful at that particular craft.
Yes.
They're so helpful, and and I know this, how loving and generous they are with their ability to understand craft and structure, and then to be able to find someone else who can, with Jessi, to step outside and give another eye. That's really an important thing. As beautiful and wonderful as Seth and Lee are, to then take it out from their particular aesthetic and how they work and be able to get an outside view is really important. I had the same experience you did. When I did my show, I alternated it with another show, and my show, which is always funny, I love to say this, but I did it, and I'm not famous, thank you, but I wrote my show at the exact same time that Marty Moran wrote The Tricky Part. So we alternated, and he went on to huge success and Obie Award winning. And I just got a funny show that got to go up to 2nd Street at 70 whatever street and go for a weekend. And then I finished it. But it was wonderful to write it. And they were so great. And because it was in the early times, for me, what I'm getting to with the question is the process of writing was so wonderful with Seth. I worked with Seth, and I know Lee's just as wonderful. But what was interesting to me was what they would send me home with. Things that, and one of the things that I remember being really difficult for me, and I wonder if this was a process for you, Renata, and how great Seth was about this, was helping me understand what I had to get rid of that I didn't want to get rid of. Did you have that process? The things in the story that I thought were so wonderful and personal, and I just was charmed by them. I thought they were lovely, but they didn't actually really help the story. And I don't know if maybe you had some of that with Jessi, but there were things I had to let go of that I didn't care if they didn't make sense. I was like, but I love this thing. I love saying this part, and letting go of some of that was so hard. But then when I would finally, I guess they say it almost like, killing your babies or killing your children, because you love it so much that when I would finally let it go, I would have some kind of clarity about the story that I had never had before. And I don't know if you had that experience, but I'm kind of going into this a little for our writers who are out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was your experience with some of the easy things and hard things about bringing this whole thing to fruition?
Yeah. From the very first, what I learned was really helpful for me as a writer was, never deleting a draft.
Yeah.
Like never. Like, it's okay, so I'm going to start over and edit this draft, but keep that one, because I had some things in the very first script that I did the first performance, I don't know, at 𝗕𝗲𝘆. And I kind of made all these shifts and changes and tried things. And the beginning was always hard for me. The beginning was always hard. The one thing I remember about Seth was when there were he helped me with specific languaging, or he'd point out like something that I wasn't conscious of, but he's like, that's an interesting note about just why this day is different. And I hadn't even, just to point that out and go, just to be, he helped me be aware of certain things that were working. You know what I mean? Like, to trust myself. That was one of the greatest gifts.
Yeah.
And then, and I guess, but it's interesting. I had some things with him, and in the beginning, other people who looked at it, like you'll see there's a balcony scene.
Hmm.
And and I think maybe Jessi and I worked on that too. It was like, that was probably the hardest scene, because I really had to understand, because it does go in different tangents, but there's a reason why it does. And I had to really sort of fight for certain things, but then I had to take in the direction to know that we as an audience need to understand it. So I had to sort of go back and forth with what I wanted to keep and what I realized, okay, I have to simplify or streamline certain things. So that was probably the hardest part to craft, to really craft that. But going through all the process and getting the feedback and eventually it's a long process. It really is.
It really is. I know for me, I know in the beginning, and I don't know if you experience this, what I kind of call this, and I even call this when I'm teaching acting. For me, the hardest thing was I had all these funny stories and I had all this information, but for me, mapping it to a journey that went from all those points to getting to the main point. So the arrival so that the audience followed the map and didn't just think it was a bunch of funny stories that I'm just telling because they're funny, and that there's no underlying reasoning behind all these things that happened to me, and that I need to share my personality and my journey because I have a reason that this stuff has to be told, because it made me understand something that's a bigger moral compass moment, or a bigger awakening to my own self, or whatever that was. But in that, you don't talk about that, you show. And how do you not talk about it? How do you show it? And that, that's a tough thing to do.
Right. Like, and really, and that was a lot, we dealt with that too, Jessi and I, like, what do you want to say? What do you want to leave the audience with? What is the call to action? And that took a long time, that really did. And Seth was great about that too, in classes. It's like, it may take you a long time, but that's where you have to strive for. It's like, what is it ultimately you're trying to say? And
Yeah.
And it does, and it's always evolving. I mean, even in these performances that I did in October, it's like, it's a little different now, slightly different, but I can't help it. It's alive. And
well, and I found something interesting, because I've looked at mine, and mine's really old now, right? And I'm like, if I was to pick it up now, it would have to change dramatically because I'm different. Right. If I gave it to another actor, it could probably be fine. But I'm like, if it lives through me, I have to evolve to who I am. So I think it's wonderful and valid that you allow it to grow and change with you, while you keep it as your story and your performance. If you put it into print and let it be told by anybody else, then that story goes and lives in the world of theater amongst whoever wants to do it. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great. So that's fascinating. Yeah. So, Jessi, what about you? What was the hardest part of the, the directing process and the crafting process of what we just kind of were talking about, this story, and helping put your contribution into how this was going to evolve or grow or change? Like, because Renata said this was a new incarnation. She wanted to get another eye. She wanted to get a new progression, and you brought the dance element out of her and helped her move. So what was the most challenging and then the most rewarding, maybe? Kind of, that's not like a big question or anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I can think of anything that was really challenging. Renata and I have a great working relationship, and we have a great time. I think that the thing that I often encounter that's unique to solo shows is that the writer is the performer, the writer is the performer. So you're often navigating both of those territories and having to be very clear when you're wanting to change something, what it's about, and even diagnosing what needs to adjust can be a challenge. Is it the writing, or is it the way that we're going about this from an acting standpoint?
Sure.
And so I think that that's what makes working on solo work so fun, is treading that territory. It keeps you on your toes.
You said,
But
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, you said that you've worked on many
Yeah.
solo shows, and have you worked on any where the writer was not the performer?
Yes,
Was it
but
easy?
it's very rare. I've had playwrights who have penned solo shows for actors to perform. But I would say in the genre, it's more common to have the performer really taking ownership of something that's happening and that has happened in their lives, their life experience. It's really important to share a story that they need to tell, and that they don't necessarily think of themselves as writers, but think of themselves as actors. So they're trying to figure out how to make something to really put themselves out into the world in a really powerful way. So I find that that's really what's interesting about working on solo work, is figuring out how to, because I don't characterize myself as a writer. I think I'm a pretty great dramaturg, but and storyteller, but I don't ever presume to want to write words for anybody. It's not my thing. So I just try to show up and figure out like what is it that I'm craving here? What are the questions that I have about this character, this relationship, or this situation, and offer those observations as generously as I can to the writer performer, and just trust that they know how to speak in their voice, and that showcasing their voice and what they want to do and how they want to showcase themselves is the most important project.
That sounds great. You want to come direct me?
Yeah, it sounds really.
I think I
pretty
can
good.
drive a little bit in that kind of direction.
Well, it's funny because, and I don't know if this will surprise you all, but, and I think I've said this to Renata, when I moved to New York after living in Chicago for 8 years, you know, and got my grad degree in directing, and I landed in New York, and I said, I'm going to make my living as a director. This is what I'm going to do. I didn't care what it was. I didn't care what I was going to direct. And what's so interesting is, by virtue of promising myself that, all of this solo show, all these solo show opportunities started rolling in because I was meeting all of these actors who were making their own work and looking for a way to showcase themselves.
Mhm.
And that's really where the opportunity was. So I had never given one thought to solo work before I showed up in New York. And then suddenly I found myself really curating it and advocating for it and directing it constantly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I find it really a fascinating thing to direct too, and I haven't done much of it, but I really love the one-on-one with the artist
Yeah.
in the solo show. The intimacy that gets created between that director and that artist is, I mean, it's like a love affair almost. It's really an amazing experience if you're very generous and you're very open, which you sound like you really are, Jessi, which is wonderful. And it doesn't mean there can't be some battles, but that's what a love affair is, right? There can be battles, there can be some butting of heads where you have to go to your corner and take a moment to figure out how to talk. But when you really are in something together to do the best you can do, you will cross all those boundaries of intimacy and personalization, and you'll do what you have to do the best piece. And that's the kind of work I like to do too. So that's very exciting. And
Yeah, I totally agree. But the thing that I realized that I need to say that is honest about directing solo work is that I've had to learn that it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's actually about listening and getting curious and very interested and very excited about somebody else's talents and story and motivations and whatever they want to highlight in the world. And I've learned the hard way early, and when I was a young person doing this, I was like, oh wait, it's not the Jessi show. I can't like completely conceptualize this and put, it's not about me. So it is a really a different but really, really valuable way of working as an artist.
I think a lot of directors who direct plays that have a lot of people in them would benefit from listening to what you just said.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you're showcasing this. You're going to people can stream it. So
Yes. That's great.
Renata, I did in my career one person show, and I didn't write it. It was a play that had been produced elsewhere many times before, and I'd never done one before, and I've never done one since. But I remember having this incredible relationship with my director, and then he went away. I was so lonely.
That's what it is. It's like a love affair. You're like, you just broke up with me. What are you doing? You can't leave.
Yeah. Well, that's
Then
when
I could relate-
he's a really good stage manager.
That's what happened to me too. I bonded with her.
You have the team around you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I didn't, when I started this process, I did not imagine I was going to write a solo show. I mean, I really, it just kind of evolved, and it became, had a life of its own, because it honestly terrified me. And especially because it's a personal story. It took me a long time to, part of the process with Jessi was just like, no, it's a good story. Trust yourself.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
it's just really, yeah, because you're out there. You're just, it's you.
Yeah.
You're sort of, this is it, and it's everything is exposed, and
Yes.
And you don't think of it as a character, I assume. It's you.
Right.
Or do you?
But I do. That helps me to do that. Like the little me is a character, because
Yeah.
I'm not her anymore, but
You play other characters, obviously.
yes, right. So that helps. Yeah, but to prepare, I mean, this is, I think that when we started rehearsing this, I think I joked around saying, Jessi, I'm going to talk to the writer. Who's the writer on this? It's so hard. Am I crazy? I mean, like, this is so hard. I'm going to talk to the writer about this. No, it takes, it's like getting ready for a marathon. It's vocally, physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Yeah.
I remember sleeping till like noon when I was performing the one I was doing. It was just exhausting. And it wasn't my story.
Wow. Yeah. No, yeah.
Have you been inspired to write anything else?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually working on developing this into a film. I've
Good.
been doing that. Yeah.
It'd be a great movie. It would
Yeah.
be a great movie.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful.
So that's kind of in the beginning stages, but it's really kind of fun to, kind of think in that way.
Yeah.
I'm also looking at kind of what happens after the end of Random Acts. Like there's a more of the story that I want to take out of right now. A lot of it's told from a child's point of view, which I think is really powerful for this piece. But I think going forward, I want to open up the view. And probably do multi-character. I don't know that I'll do more solo work, but because it's just more fun.
Yeah, well,
to
we
have-
talked about that. He did that. He did I Am My Own Wife. So how many characters was that?
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Billion.
Yeah, my own wife. Oh,
They all have German accents.
It's
Like
Oh.
two-thirds of them, you're like, oh, how is
Yeah.
this German accent going to be different from the? Oh God. But you know what? It was
I
very.
love that play.
But I think you should do it. Yeah, he did it. It was really rewarding. I
Yeah,
watched
go
it and
for
I
it.
thought, so do it. Make it as many people as you can play. It was one of the most rewarding things to watch. You still have a ton of characters in your show, even just the one you're doing now. So
Yes.
take it as far as you can take it. Go. I think it would be lovely. And
Okay. All right. We'll see.
I mean it. Go.
I
Do
want-
whatever.
I want Catherine, get ready. I'm going to ask for
Oh.
a photo. There's this I love this photo, and I want our people to see it. It's of you and I think it's your kindergarten class, maybe. And
Oh.
so you said you tell this story from the point of view of a child, and I just wanted people to see. Oh yeah, There you are. You're highlighted. Sepia.
Oh, look at it. So I love.
And
little
what's the
baby
photo
pictures.
on the other photo?
Yeah.
So this is looking at Earl School. This is my first day of school.
Mhm.
And I am standing there with my little bag of, school supplies.
Oh,
Oh,
I see you
yeah,
now.
that's
Yeah.
you right there,
Yeah,
face forward.
And
Yeah.
that is
Okay.
my sister looking, in front of me, looking away.
Okay.
But we're about to cross the street and my mom is about to take me to the front door of Earl School.
Oh,
Stop to take a picture. Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah.
cute. That's
Yeah,
great.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, thanks for
So-
telling us what that's about. When I saw the tape first, there were no, or I don't remember, but now at the end, there are some photos in the credits
Yes.
that I've seen, and I
Yeah.
love that you added that. I'll just,
Thank you, me
let's
too.
just say it.
I when you asked me to see about streaming the piece, this was really for just archival, purposes. And I went back to Eli because for the show, we set up the lobby like a church basement, and at the end, the audience walked out to a sandwich board with all the pictures, but it was kind of blown up. Like my mother had made a scrapbook of my life. And so there they all were. And so I figured, yeah, I want the audience to have that experience. And the best way to do that was to add them to the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
a great thing for
Good.
people to get to wrap up with after. Yeah.
Fun.
It's nice.
Yeah, that worked out really well.
So I know this is going to sound like a strange question because it's COVID, but are you either of you working on anything now? I mean, there are virtual things happening and there are readings and there are things going on. So have either of you had the luxury and the pleasure of working on anything recently that you feel good about and have had some joy and artistic excitement about that you want to share or tell us about?
I'm seeing
we've
some
not done-
nodding. I'm
We've
seeing
not
some
done a lot.
nodding.
Jessi's got to.
Go, Jessi.
What
What
do you do,
are
Jessi?
you up to?
Yeah, actually, I admit that I was a little really not willing to go down the Zoom creation road at first. It was really, really difficult. I work a lot on new plays and in new play development processes and had a lot of things interrupted.
Mhm.
And so, after a little bit of a grieving and adjusting process, I've had some really, really wonderful opportunities to really work on the text of projects that I've had in development and have done quite a lot on Zoom in development. Musicals, what people would call devised pieces, just working on new plays and getting stage readings ready for streaming.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing that it's starting to feel pretty comfy because I think we're gonna be here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some work that we really can accomplish in this mode.
I think you're right. I think new work, devised work, some of those things can
Yeah.
actually be beneficial and fine working together as a team on a virtual medium. I think that's a good use of this time for people who want to get together as groups and have that work. I think that great. I'm glad that you're finding your way in that and that you're starting to feel rewarded and that you and some friends and colleagues are all starting to make some progress. And that's important because when we come out of this, there will be new material, there will be new plays.
That's what I hope. Yeah. That's what we're saying to ourselves every time.
Yes.
And I teach directing at a couple of different schools and had, directing projects interrupted. And so innovating how to teach theater directing and not make it a film directing class or a TV directing class has been a really unexpected but welcome challenge. And I think I'm rising to the occasion as best I can, teaching remotely. So
I'm glad you're teaching. I've also been teaching directing on Zoom and find that really rewarding, actually.
Yes.
I don't find I'm taking classes at the Barrow Group, which I'm so happy I can take acting classes at the Barrow Group. But I teach acting, but I don't find that for myself as rewarding online. I teach Meisner, so I'm not really trying to teach repetition online is not really working.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of let that go. But the directing,
big
yes, I think
challenge.
it's really lovely because sometimes in directing, I don't know if you find this, Jessi, but for me, there's a lecture and a verbal exchange about how to talk to actors and what getting, structural work that you don't always get to do when you're on your feet in a room, that you don't get to actually map out and talk a lot about how that work and that preliminary work happens. And with Zoom, I get to do a lot of talking. Then I bring actors in and we talk to them. But
Yeah.
there's so much of understanding how the whole process happens and how the thought process and the imagination works that you can actually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Well,
found
so much of directing is collaborating and
Exactly.
corresponding and having conversations. And if you're not doing that with your collaborators, you're not really directing.
Right.
So it's about creating those opportunities and really making people feel like they are making something.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's great because I think when we've been in the world of live theater, so often sometimes we get rushed or we don't feel like we have the time to, rehearsals have gotten so truncated that we don't do the talking and we don't do the communication time. And so, I mean, we have 4 weeks of rehearsal at Fourth Wall. We make it sure that we're not doing this 2.5 week rehearsal thing that some theaters do. We just how do you do that? How do you do a play in 2.5 weeks? I can't even talk to my, design team or even have a communication with my actors about what's going on. So yeah, I think it's been kind of fun for me to review myself, even maybe sometimes more than the people I'm talking to about what's important so that I hear you, so that I hear the entire group's communication. So anyway, now I'm talking about me. So, okay. But I am so encouraged to hear you say that, Jessi. I think it's wonderful you're doing that. You're putting that out in the universe and good. And Renata, how about you? Have you?
Yeah, I had a chance to, it's different things. Like some were the readings of new plays and just were straight to the camera and, and there was somebody operating it. And then there was we had a chance to do with Fab Women, we did a festival of these monologues that were written by women for these historical women in theater. So I got to play Gwen Verdon, I cleared out this room, I was dancing, I did a little dance or to it, and, and it was just really fun to play. And then I was able to do some original plays with 𝗪𝗹𝗪𝗀 where we recorded it. It was a huge production kind of thing because we recorded it and then it was all edited and then it was presented as this evening of short theater plays. So I mean, Zoom is so versatile and you can it can be as complicated or as simple as you want, so it's been really interesting. It's been fun to explore, and I've taken some acting classes just to keep myself, and every class I'm taking right now is a Zoom class, so yeah, thank God for that. Yeah,
I know, right? Well, I think it's great that as long as you keep yourself intellectually and artistically challenged and stimulated, and you try to create in some form or fashion and stay connected to other artists, I think it's a positive thing to try to keep trudging through this and come out the other end with that energy and love to put back out to what we do and hopefully offer it back up to the public, and
absolutely.
That's what's so great about your piece. That's what we love about your piece too. It's so much about love.
What haven't
Yeah.
what
I was
haven't
gonna say,
yeah.
What haven't we said, if anything, about random acts that you'd like our audience to know?
I mean, I was thinking about, I guess what as at the core, it's funny you say this, but I was going to say love. It really, it comes from just acknowledging. I mean, at the times I needed it most, some wonderful love came my way, and I just think at this time we're in to to be reminded that love is really the most important thing, and to look for opportunities to be kind to each other.
Yeah, and it comes to us sometimes when we least expect it, and from down the wrong street, and who knows from where. And gosh, we can give it too in unexpected.
And where we can, yes, offer it, definitely, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought everything you're saying, but I also think it's very important or interesting that I thought about the fact that it also it makes me think that you can choose how you see the world. You can choose how you interact with the world. And look at your shirt.
Oh, yes, yes. I had a theme, yes.
Yes, choose love.
You can choose love over theater. Yes.
Perfect advertisement. Yay. Is that a similar thing for you, Jessi, about the show, or what else would you want to share that we haven't said?
Oh, right when you asked that question, I was just thinking about how struck I was about making a full piece of theater that really is about, at the end of the day, these little tiny moments that we don't recognize at the time that are changing our lives, changing the course of our lives, and going back and honoring those little exchanges is what makes the piece so beautiful to me.
That's great.
That's great. That's very true. And it's so well recognizable and structured when you watch it, that's what's happening. It really is. That's a very wonderful, specific description, Jessi. Thank you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm excited for people to see it. I'm so excited.
I am too.
We are already having some nice response to the early push, a lot of people signing up to watch it. So we are hoping it gets some real traction and, lots of good word of mouth. So a lot of people watch this because as we all know, we don't have to go into any detail. It's a really important time for people to watch something like this.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping it gets shared and pushed around and everybody watches it and has a
If you're watching this right now, you can go to our website and
sign up,
register and sign up and get a ticket, and you should. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's something. I think.
Yes.
What else do we have?
So you guys, we always like this because we're just silly. But and if you don't have one, don't feel any pressure.
It's fine. People have said, no, that's stupid.
Some people have said, I don't
this.
have one of those. But do either of you guys have like funny stories from theater, like something that was really went wrong in a show that you were in, or that was really funny that happened in a show that you want to share? Because audience members always like funny, theater disasters or mishaps.
Who doesn't?
Right. I mean, I've had a million of them. So yeah, I have a whole show with about 8
any
of them in it.
takers?
Yeah. Anybody remember one? Or even if you saw one on stage.
Do you want to go first, Renata?
Okay.
Fantastic.
I was doing Hay Fever at the Dorset Theater, and it was a summer theater, and I was on stage with my brother, the guy playing my brother. I was playing Sorrel at the time, and all of a sudden, the lights are, bright, and there was a moth that started floating in, and it was like this. It was it really made its presence, and so it's a comedy, so it was this fun moment to be, all of a sudden part of the dialogue is like we're talking to the moth, and it was so much fun. It was just one of those little gifts of
you just brought the moth into the show.
We just included the moth in our scene. But no, on my birthday last year, I'll tell you this quickly, I was seeing Laurie Metcalf do Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and it was in the second act, and it was preview. So I think it was like their second preview. And she was on the couch boozing it up, and she was talking to the young professor, and she was kind of flirting with him. She totally went up on her lines. Laurie Metcalf. And it was just like, and she drunk, and she kept in character, and she's like, I don't know the line. What's the line? And it was like, it was like when we all were just like, this is a moment. This is a real moment. It was
it happens to the best.
Yeah.
Yes. And she just handled it like a pro. It was really fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
Jessi?
You got one?
Well, it's funny because when you say funny story, I have to put quotes around the word funny because I think they would be funny maybe in another 5 to 10 years. They're really theater tragedies. And so I have to take a hard look at myself because I can't think of any.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll let you off the hook then. We'll let you off the hook.
Well, so Renata, I did Hay Fever at the Weston Playhouse, which is like maybe 20 miles away from Dorset. And I can't remember the brother's name, but I played that part. And you reminded me, there was an English actor actress in the show, and I said Macbeth backstage, and she was like, "That's really bad luck." And I looked her right in the face and I went, "Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth." And she said, "Oh, darling," and walked away. And it was a dress rehearsal, and there's a thunderstorm, and my character had to come in wet.
Wet, yes.
So I did it for the first time that day, right? Like 5 minutes later, I come in, I'm soaking wet for the first time, and I had to say a line and turn around and run up these stairs. And I said the line, turned around, slipped on the first step, and caught myself with my thumbnail on the next step, and looked, and my thumbnail was standing straight up.
Oh, no.
And in that moment, I just thought, I'm never saying Macbeth again.
Even that story is only funny with quotes around it.
Yeah, right. See, that's a tragedy. That's a theater tragedy.
That is so weird.
That is so weird.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now, if you had said Macbeth, the moth would have flown down your throat, choked you to death, and you'd have died on stage.
I'm still friends with that actor, by the way, Amelia, and I apologized to her after that whole experience.
You learned the hard way.
My goodness.
Well,
Well,
guys,
that was fun.
Is there anything we've missed? Because it's about
Anything?
time to go.
I think we covered it all. This has been a delight.
I'm
Yeah.
just so glad that so many more people are seeing this show, and
Yeah.
I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah,
Good.
we're thrilled and we're so grateful. And you're so generous,
I'm
both
so
of you, for giving us your time, for sharing the show. And thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. We'll give you updates. We'll tell you how it's going. And please feel free to reach out with anything. And thanks for sharing your time and all your stories with our audience tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to support Fourth Wall with a tax-deductible gift, or to subscribe to our upcoming 10th anniversary season.
Look at us on Zoom.
I know. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in like forever.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to remember how long it's been
Where are you
since
guys
we saw
now?
each other in person.